to Ensuring Success 2023, or welcome back if you've been with us. So far today we've had 5 other sessions. This is session number 6 out of 14. And we are live from AMS Pictures in Dallas, Texas. Before we get started with this session, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors who make all of this possible. And they are ADP, Avalara, BotKeeper, Canopy, Instead by Corby, CPA.com, eFile for Biz, Relay, WriteWorks, SafeSend, SureLink, Walters Kluwer, Xero, and Zoho. And I'd like next to mention our CPE process. If you're new to our event as of this session, we will break at 3 times during the session, and at that time we'll post a CPE code on the bottom of the screen. It's a 3-digit code, and to make sure you realize that we're posting it, you're gonna hear this sound. And at that point, you'll want to write down that 3-digit code. We do it 3 times, so you'll have 3 3-digit codes. At the end of the day, or whenever you're ready to get your CPE credit, you can go to the CPE link on our screen and enter the codes for each session you attend and download your certificate. It's as easy as that. This time, we are going to ask the important question, is it time to rebrand? And with that, I'm going to introduce our panel. We have next to me Becky Livingston, and then Geni Whitehouse, then Gaynor Meilke, and my sidekick and co-moderator, Alexandra DeFelice. And I'd like each of you to give a brief introduction to yourselves.
Hi, I'm Becky Livingston. I own a marketing firm called Penhill Marketing, and my clients are CPAs and CPA firms, mostly small firms, 10 partners and under. I'm located in New Jersey, and my clients are across the United States.
I'm Geni Whitehouse. I'm a CPA. I work with wineries in the Napa Valley on a part-time basis, doing only advisory because I work for a cool firm that lets me do that. I also have a company called The Impactful Advisor where I teach accountants to deliver advisory service, and I'm a speaker and a nerdy, goobery kind of a person.
Right. I'm Gaynor Meilke. I'm owner of Charisma Inc. We're a consulting, marketing, and PR company in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and we work with accountants, we work with solution providers, and we work with thought leaders.
And I'm Alexandra DeFelice, Director of Marketing and Business Development for Payne & Fears Law Firm in Southern California, Gail's sidekick and co-moderator. I'm taking audience questions, so if you have any throughout this panel or any throughout the 14 sessions, please add them, and designated bell ringer to make sure you guys all get your CPE.
All right, and speaking of audience questions, there is a box on your screen called Ask a Question, and it appears below the video window that you're watching us on. So if you want to at any time enter questions for our speakers, or if you're having any technical difficulties, or if you just want to say hello, you can put a message in that screen and we will get it. So let's start first, since this session is on Is It Time to Rebrand? Let's talk about what we mean by rebranding. So, Becky, you're right next to me, so you get to go first.
Okay.
Hot seat.
Rebranding, it's something you want to think about if you're merging with another firm. I was just talking to someone at the hotel last night, and their firm brand name was, I didn't know it, and it was 2 of the firms had merged, and they came up with this brand new name. You also want to think about it if you have a brand that's been around for a while. You don't necessarily need to change the brand name, but you may want to change some aesthetics related to the brand. Maybe your website needs an update. Maybe some of your marketing initiatives need an update. When I teach branding classes, there's a quote that I have that branding isn't what people see about you, it's what they say about you when you're not in the room. I always think that's a fun quote, what they say about you when you're not in the room.
Yeah.
All right, anything else you guys can add?
So I think, first of all, you have to have a brand in order to rebrand.
That's true.
So, many people have to start with that. You need to have one first and then think about rebranding down the road. But I think it's really important that I teach people to do advisory services, and I have people coming in who haven't done that before, and their biggest concern is, how do I suddenly switch who I am from being this traditional compliance-focused service provider to somebody who's now going to be your best friend and start telling you how to do things and help you make decisions and move forward. And part of that is telling a different story. So I think that's much of what we do too. And as Becky said, it doesn't mean I need a new logo necessarily, but I need to change the way that I phrase what it is that I do and start adding a new dimension to my behaviors and personality and my service offerings. And really bring, especially if you're going to do advisory, in my opinion, I want to know you, the person. I don't want to know how many years you've been sitting in your chair and doing whatever it is you do.
Yeah.
I want to know what's unique about you that you and I can connect on. And so I think there's a bunch of that has to happen if you're making a shift out of traditional service work.
Yeah, I would also say that a brand really is the promise that you're making too. It's like every point of your business, from onboarding to how you meet your initial prospect to, what does the letterhead look like. So, and in order to do a good job of that, you also have to know that internally as well. So it's as much about knowing what your business is about internally and agreeing on that internally as it is about what you put out into the market. Because that's where the confusion sets in, when we're not on the same page and then we try to explain it to somebody else.
It's really true, especially as we think about recruiting, which a lot of firms are dealing with these days, is recruiting efforts. And how do they express to someone maybe who's new to the accounting industry what they do, what their brand is about. I talk to a lot of the smaller firms that I work with, and they're doing things I hadn't seen accounting firms doing over the last 15 years. They're having events. They're dressing up. They have football jersey days, and they have food related. Yes, they have football related days, and all of that is captured now with social media, which helps draw people toward the firm that may not have noticed the firm in the past because they might have thought it wasn't relevant to them. So recruiting is a great push for branding.
And I think the why thing, it goes back to the Simon Sinek stuff about why we're doing this as a firm. And we need to not only figure it out for marketing purposes, but also how do we bring that to life inside everything that we do in our firm. And that's a big piece of recruiting, I think, especially with this generation. They want a value of the work. They want an impact that comes from the work that we're doing. They want to make a difference in the world and other things. And we have to communicate that. And we didn't used to do that. Our website was built to list our services. We do audit, we do tax. We charge you by the hour. Don't call us unless you're ready to write us a check. That kind of stuff. So what do you think?
I think also just flipping the messaging around, because I think a lot of firms get so tied into what they're doing, and it's really about what is the outcome for the client, right? Wow. And that's, in, I don't want to say in the book that we put together, chapter number 1 is called No More Wheezing. Because I can go to an accountant or any other business website, and more likely than not, it's we. No, it's all about you. What's the outcome for your prospective customer?
So I'd like to go back to Becky about what people say about you when you're not in the room. A, how do you find that out? And B, can you actually use that to your advantage? Because maybe it's a good thing that they say about you when you're not in the room, and you didn't even know to define yourself that way.
Yep. That's a great point. And it might not always be good, which can also be an opportunity, right? So one way is testimonials, whether they're good or bad, but preferably good. What are your clients saying about you? What are your prospects saying about you? One of my clients, a couple of my clients, we use Google My Business a lot. And we get a lot of traction that way. And he gets a lot of reviews. He's a 5-star CPA in Austin. And we get a lot of reviews from his clients that way, which I guess people find is more organic than us saying, hey, our clients say we're fabulous.
Right.
They read about it on Google and they believe it. And it is true. He's a great CPA firm. He's a great CPA firm.
And they even believe it.
And they believe it.
But it's also generational.
That's true.
It's a generation of Yelp people.
It is.
And that's where they're going. Versus some of the people my age, which is 42, by the way, people my age and older are not used to going there to find validation.
Okay, so but here's a follow-up question, Geni. Because I've encouraged this where someone has said something really good about one of my attorneys on one of these third-party platforms. And I said, would you mind asking them if we could put it on our website, right? Like, can you do that?
Yes, we can.
What's the best way to, because I wouldn't feel right about just taking it off of Yelp or wherever else. What would you recommend there?
I do that. I've had people say things on LinkedIn in the message that, your course changed my life, and can I buy that? Can I put that on a big billboard outside my house? And,
No, I mean,
but you get permission, and then you say, I'd love to do a testimonial, and are you comfortable if I just put your last name, or have you just put from a trainee?
Give them an option, right?
Yeah,
so
what
that's
do you want me to say?
You can put your name and your company, or we can just kind of put a national retail company, or so you
Yeah,
give them those
you can-
options. And
yeah.
do they usually, how do they respond to that?
Oh, they love it.
Yep.
If they are that excited about something,
Yep.
you know, they want to share it. I think people naturally want to share both the really good stuff and the really bad stuff, right?
Right.
And the medium people don't
They don't do anything.
That's right.
It's also promoting their business
Right.
too, right?
Yeah.
So it's, you know, you're highlighting your clients, which then creates goodwill as well.
And that's one of the things I've used LinkedIn Live to do that. I'm interviewing them, so then
So you
they
said
get
LinkedIn Live. So
promotion.
for those who
Yeah.
don't know what that is it? Are you
It's
doing
a
video?
live stream that is facilitated. I was trying to come up with the right word. By LinkedIn, but you put it through another video site, and then they live stream the conversation that you have through LinkedIn.
So almost like what we're doing today, like
Yep.
kind of
Just
like a
like this.
webinar, but you're
But it goes,
broadcasting it through LinkedIn.
Yeah, it gets broadcast through there and connected to your connection, so that you have an audience that ideally will come watch. There's a lot of that happening now, so it's hard to get notice, but it builds brand awareness for both parties.
Yep.
So we're going to break for just 1 second, and well, more than 1 second, but really briefly. And on the bottom of the screen, we're going to post the first CPE code for this session. So you want to make sure you record that code if you're planning on collecting CPE for this session. All right, so we want to go on. You mentioned, Geni, about Simon Sinek, who wrote the book, What's Your Why?
Start with why. was
Start
the
with
first
why or
one.
whatever.
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
about why.
something about why about why. I think it was.
Okay, and so let's talk a little bit more about that. How do you really like come up with? I mean, we do tax returns. You know, we have an accounting firm. We do accounting. How does that translate into a why?
I think Becky probably has some in-depth stuff. Go ahead.
I definitely do. So
Yeah.
when you're thinking about opening your firm, the whys are several things. Why are you doing it? Why didn't you just join a public accounting firm or a partnership? Why
I always say,
didn't you?
why aren't you a ballerina? Is
Why
what I like to ask.
Because that might be harder. I don't know. So why are you doing it in the first place? Second, the why is who are you doing it for? It's basically the 5 W's.
Yeah.
Who are you doing it for? Where are you going to be doing it? Are you a local firm, a regional firm, a national, international firm? Where do you want to do this? How do you want to do it? Are you going to be technology savvy? Are you going to be old school? Are you going to be more traditional, a combination of things? Are you going to offer portals? How are you going to offer the services that you're offering? Like my firm is virtual. I've not even met all of my staff. They're all over the country, and all of my clients are all over the country, and I haven't met most of them. So how are you going to conduct it? And that's in our mission statement, a virtual CPA firm, a marketing firm. When? When are you going to offer these services? What services are you going to offer? It doesn't have to be traditional accounting. It could be a specialized accounting. It could be auditing in a specific industry. It could be tax in a specific industry. It could be advisory in a specific industry. So those are the whys and the what do you want to do this for? Is it to make money? Great. You're going to be able to do that. You know that.
Yeah, Simon Sinek won't let you get
No,
away with that
no, he
answer. 'Cause
won't.
none of us did it. Well, we might have had an incentive to
Yes.
generate a profit, but we could have done that in different ways.
You
We
could have.
chose to be in this profession, hopefully, unless we were forced by your parents or something. And so there's a reason behind that. So
Well, and I would just say digging down into that who, because I love Simon Sinek,
Yeah.
but I always go, well, the why is still kind of superficial. It's really the who, because if you don't know who you're doing it for, it's difficult during tax season when
Yep.
you're working, hopefully you're not all working, 60 hours a week, but that's what drives you. And I think that's some of the best messaging that you can possibly have in your brand is really connecting with who you're serving, because that's going to resonate the most. And the why is still somewhat about
Yeah.
your firm, whereas the who is all about your client. And if you can really drill down on the persona and understand what their pain is and show them that you can solve the pain with what you do, that's really powerful branding.
Okay.
One of the
Go
things
ahead.
I talk to my firm members about is if you're looking to jump into a new industry, service line stays the same, but you're looking to get into a new service industry, ask your staff, does anyone have an interest in this industry?
That's a great
Like
idea.
if someone asked me, we want to get into the dog industry. I'm like, hello, I've got resources. Cats, I'd be like, nope, not me. I have birds, mice, birds, I don't have any of that.
Armadillos.
Dogs, I'm in.
Armadillos. Yeah.
But if someone says, I want to get into sports, or I want to get into restaurants, or I want to get, if someone has an affinity for that, they're going to be more passionate about it. They're going to have contacts already.
I think this is the core thing that we're all talking about, is having a decision about what it is you want, which is what we often skip.
Yep.
Well,
do
it's what
because
you
we have
skip
to,
when
or we
you
should.
first get started.
When you start.
And if we're talking
Yeah.
about rebranding versus starting a firm fresh,
You need to revisit it.
at what point are you allowed to say, now I can say no? I don't have
Yep.
to take every single thing. I get to choose what's going to make me happy.
Exactly.
When do you have that aha moment that you can feel comfortable making that decision?
I did right out of the gate.
Yeah.
I knew who I wasn't going to work with, and I knew who I was.
I think some people have a confidence problem that makes them give away their services in this profession. I mean, I'm an accountant. We practice that. We have a problem billing. But I think once you have enough people coming to you that will start paying enough to you that it's worth it, you know you've arrived. And at that point, when you have the confidence to build what makes you happy, you are at that point where you can start turning people away. And I don't know which comes first, but it's a journey for us. I mean, I had my own practice, and I would take all comers, and I would underprice because I didn't want them to not hire me. And I also felt like they needed my help desperately. So, I mean, you create a nonprofit, right? You're
Yeah.
giving away your stuff, you're killing yourself, and many firms are still doing that.
Yep.
And what it takes is deciding at some point that you are sick and tired of whatever it is you're going through, setting a price that you really want to get, and waiting for that first client to take it. And then once you do that, you go, wait, somebody will pay this price? Okay, I'm going to do it again. And then
Yep.
you get a second
Yep.
one.
So it's not just about the price, it's about the kind of audience, it's about the industry.
about-
Who else? Okay, so you said you could go to the staff and say, are you interested? Who should be
Yeah.
involved in this rebranding process?
No, I would say your actual clients. You know, the other piece
good
of
ones.
the good ones.
In which
good
way,
one.
Gaynor? How so?
Well,
Yeah.
I think one, I call it the feedback loop. If you're not asking your clients what you're doing well, what you're not doing well, it goes back to those reviews. You can learn
Yeah.
a lot from a bad review,
Yeah.
if it's consistent. So they can help inform what they want to see, what works, what doesn't, what they think about you, all of those survey types of things.
So do you do like an official survey, or you take
Yeah,
like
I
your favorite clients, who the ones you like, I want more of these, and have like individual
I
conversations?
think you
with
do
them?
both. So you've got the survey where you
Yeah.
can get kind of aggregate info, and if you do that even quarterly, again, that's showing your clients, one, that you care, which is also another part of your brand. And then if you want to do a focus group of some of your best clients that maybe you want more of, that would be a great way to
So I don't
do
know
that.
about you guys, but I mean, I'm in a firm, and getting clients to do surveys is impossible. So if you've got the magic answer to that, we're talking to our clients regularly, so we're trying to ask for that feedback.
Yeah.
I don't know how easy it would be for them to tell us something bad, right? I don't know that we get that in a
Well, I
that's
guess
why-
it depends if
feedback,
you
yeah.
involve a third party, right? So
Yeah.
Right.
sometimes
Yeah.
at my old firm, either the marketing director would be part of the conversation
Yeah.
with the attorney, with the primary billing at my law firm, or we would have a third party that would just ask questions. And those third parties, oh my God, they got
Yeah.
some scary feedback. Like some of it's like, oh, we don't want to tell the CPA this feedback.
Yeah.
Like,
So wait, you said something about a role called a what? A marketing director? You have one of those? All right. Whoa, what a concept.
That's
Yeah,
a great option, though, a third
get
party,
somebody else.
independent.
And that
Well,
could
yeah,
even be an
have somebody else
intern,
talk to
to be
them.
honest.
right. So then
Yeah.
if it's all anecdote, when you do the anecdotal information, where are you
Yeah.
storing that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Don't look
What?
at me. We don't have a place to put ours.
Well, Gaynor, you said you're having lots of conversations. Are you just
Yeah.
are you actually documenting this stuff and storing it where people in the firm can?
Yes, so it would be, we do surveys, so there'd be a spreadsheet, a database of that. But then also just collecting these reviews, and, I have spreadsheets full of
Okay.
CPA
Yay, we
firm
love that.
reviews, too.
Spreadsheet, give me
Yeah,
another.
exactly. But that's where you can start to see the common themes as well.
Yeah.
And just going back to the point of, how do you choose who you're going to serve? Sometimes they choose you.
That's true.
That's right.
Where
That's very
you start serving, for example, accountants, and then more of them come, and you're like, wow, I really love doing this.
Yeah.
And, there's a
And
perfect
you-
niche for you.
And you decide that that's where you need to focus.
Exactly,
Sometimes-
because then you can
yeah.
repeat it.
One of the things, just to touch base on what Gaynor was saying about the spreadsheets, there's so many tools out there. I mean, you've got ChatGPT. Everybody knows about it now. But there's also opportunities in Copilot, which is Microsoft.
Yeah.
Google Sheets does this, but you can import the data. Maybe it's just the conversation comment section,
Yeah.
and it will analyze the trends that it's seeing.
That's a good point.
So you can
Yeah.
you can see keywords that people are using to talk about your firm that you might not have known people even thought was your firm.
Yeah.
Maybe caring or understanding or community driven or
Yeah.
something like that. Those
That you
kinds
can-
of words can then become something more powerful in your marketing message.
And we do put testimonials on the website. I mean, we have that. But in terms of, we're still trying to figure out how to embrace the whole CRM concept.
Yep.
To just record our own internal conversations with clients, much less to capture that external kind of feedback.
Actually, another great
formalize it.
place is social media too,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
people will let loose
Yeah.
a little bit more on social media as well.
And Gaynor, were you the one that said an intern can do this kind of thing?
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
feel like I'm this older person that founded this firm 40 years ago or whatever, and I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and go through social media.
Right.
But I feel
Yeah.
like that could be a fun task for a younger person in your firm. I mean,
And there's tools too. There's a tool called Mentionlytics, which will like scrape the web.
Mentionlytics.
Mentionlytics that will
Yeah.
like scrape the web for all kinds of
Mentions.
all kinds of things. So there are ways to kind of shortcut as well.
Gail?
Okay, so, well, actually, before I ask this question, it's slightly early, but let's take our second CPE break so we can just do
favorite
that and then get into a
time.
conversation. All right, so we're going to display the
bell.
second CPE code on the screen. You need to write that down if you're planning on collecting CPE credit for this session. So we've talked about who you want to be, who you want to serve, what kind of services you want to do, where you're located. We didn't talk about that much, but we did in the remote worker session about whether you're all geographically in one place or maybe you're spread out. But say you've compiled all this information about here's who you are, your firm, and now you're ready to say we need to slap a brand on this. So now what steps do you take? Because it's not going to be like overnight, oh, okay, I've got a new image. There have to be, what are the steps? How do you get there?
I like the slapping a brand on something.
Please don't do that.
Blue and green are going to be our colors.
I would definitely say do not start with the colors because that's chasing a shiny object. You might like Pantone 564, but
It
yeah.
causes arguments. I will let you know right now. You don't-
We've gone down this path. Yeah.
So, I mean,
where do you start then?
I
Where do
think
we-
from a rebranding standpoint, going back to Simon Sinek is why?
Yeah.
Why do we want to rebrand? Like, what is
Yeah.
the impetus for it? Because we don't
Yeah.
just want to do it because we're bored.
So what would be some reasons?
Well, I think it's going after a new audience or delivering a new level of service,
Right.
expanding the way you practice and what you're trying to accomplish. If you choose a niche, for example, then you need to have all the marketing facing in that direction.
Or if there's mergers and acquisitions,
Yep.
we've
Yeah.
kind of taught that off.
Bringing
But
in
I
a new
thought-
service line, a new
but-
industry, a new geography.
Or
Yeah.
even
So-
if you're just the same person or the same firm, but you want a new image.
So, our website is, it's been a CPA firm focused on wineries, and it's very winery focused and it's very advisory focused. So you see pictures of us teaching classes and things like that, but it doesn't mean we don't need to refresh it. We have pictures of people that are no longer at the firm, for example.
Yep.
We have 20 years ago photos of everybody.
Yeah.
And things like that. So there are constantly things, and we have articles that we publish and blog posts and things, but we need to take a look at, what tools are available today to make it more relevant and easier for our clients to find information on our site at the very least.
Yeah.
And then do we have current photos of people? I think that's really
Okay,
important.
so this is maybe a controversial question. So last year I relaunched our website, and it was a whole, and I'll get into some examples, but there were same thing. I had to make a business case for why all the photos should be the same background. Like some people's faces were super close up, blurry. One of them was like 30 years old. It could have been his son, right? How often should you be fixing, redoing your website?
Every 5 years.
One of the pros, but the photo thing. One of the
They're
things
so
that,
expensive.
Yeah, one of the things
not
about
necessarily a reskin doesn't cost as much
It's
as
not
a
as
complete
bad.
redesign.
and it's a lot easier than it used to be.
Yep.
Some of those old
Yeah.
tools were a huge undertaking,
Yep.
and now it's so easy to get a website. But I mean, on the photo thing, one of the things we did is we took photos, and our firm takes the whole firm to a cool place. They took us all to Hawaii if we hit our revenue targets.
Can I join your firm?
I know. This is a
I
recruiting
might become a
opportunity.
CPA.
So they took us all to Hawaii with your spouses, everything's covered. And so we took our photos from Hawaii. So we have these tropical backgrounds. So now we're back in the office and we bring in new people. We ain't in Hawaii, y'all.
Right.
But we have like a green background that we can do
Okay.
every time so that the look and feel looks
We
consistent.
have one now where we use a service that they keep track of, like, exactly. They put in a green background, so then we have a virtual background, right? It's
Yeah.
called an environmental background or whatever. But it can be changed at any time if we decide we want it to be
Well, that's
Hawaii
cool.
or whatever.
Yeah.
But then they have specific specs, like they have to stand a certain amount
That's-
away from us. They have
yeah,
to use
we're-
certain lighting.
That's
So
cool.
if you have people, if you do have a remote workforce specifically, you can actually send people to their home as long as they have like a space in their garage, enough room, so that it's consistent.
Yeah, we have like a green foresty thing, like a tropical plant area in Napa where we have people get photographed. They have to come. They come to our office
But
because
when-
people always want to come to Napa.
When you look at your website, because that's
Yeah.
what, for most firms,
Yeah.
when they started their firm, that's the first thing they did. At least
That's
some
right.
people never did one, which we
Yeah.
won't talk about those people, right?
there.
But if you look at there and be like, what did I put was my value statement, which half the people probably couldn't even recite it to you.
Yeah.
What did I say were my top clients, and some of them might not even be your clients anymore,
Yeah,
right?
You have to be 5 years is
One of the
what do you
first
think?
steps I usually start with clients is we do a personality test. And it's kind of fun. You go down this short list and you pick which side of the personality you are. Conservative, spontaneous, traditional, contemporary, fun, accessible,
Boring.
ogres.
I was going to say, did anybody get out of that one box from the conservative traditional? You got anybody over here on the other side?
So,
Ogre.
and that's actually included
Nice.
in this booklet that you'll get
Took my thing
with the
away.
resources. It's included in this booklet. But once you do the personality test, it gives you some ideas on how to start thinking about your brand. Maybe you're tech-focused versus traditional.
Yeah.
And it tells you, when you're looking at this kind of a personality, the kinds of fonts that you want to be thinking about, the kind of imagery
Wow.
you want to be thinking about.
So who's
colors.
the personality, Becky? If I've got a firm, is it the owner? Is it the leadership team? Whose personality are you?
majority?
That's a great question. So
Yeah.
we have to be thinking about our audience.
Yes, that's
Because
right.
if our audience is made up of construction, manufacturing, restaurants, and wineries, that kind of goes whoop, whoop, down the whole list because I'm conservative, I'm entertaining, I'm this, I'm that. So the brand has to kind of feel like that personality. And approachable is probably going to be, you're talking about service businesses,
Yeah.
construction, restaurants, maybe a winery. That's, I don't know if that's service-based, but it depends on how you approach a winery. Manufacturing is definitely B2B, so a little bit different. We have to be thinking about that audience the whole way. What kind of words do they use? Short and simple. Don't be throwing your CPA jargon
Yeah,
out there
please
because
don't
we
do
don't
that.
know.
Yeah.
We don't know what a fractional CFO is. Does that mean I get somebody's arm one day and a leg another day? No. What is we don't know fractional
Maybe.
CFO, but we do know outsourced CFO.
Yeah.
So think about your audience. What type of words would you use? What kind of language is relative to your audience? If you're a local firm, use words that are local to you. If you're in Boston, throw wicked in there a few times. If you're in New Jersey, don't call the beach because it's the shore. Don't be calling it the beach. If you want your people to think you know them, sound like them.
I
Exactly.
have a very relevant question that came in from the audience, and this is like back in the day. Is it favorable to have CPA in your business name, or is it a disadvantage for firms providing tax and CAS?
You know, that I run into this a lot with firm names, and just because you do want people to recognize what you do, I think you still need to have that CPA advisor. I just ran into this the other day where it's somebody's focusing on a wellness niche. Well, their name actually sounds like they're like a health coach,
Yes.
not
Yeah.
a
Yes.
fractional CFO
Yeah.
who helps
Yeah.
the
It's
coaches.
tough.
So
Yeah.
You know, you have very specialized expertise. People are coming to you to get their accounting, you know, whatever it is done, whether it's advisory, the CFO piece. I think that has to be either in the tagline or as part of the name.
Or
And
you have the
and-
.cpa domain so that you have that
Right.
connection at least.
And if you're using CPA, make sure you spell it out at least once, because in the healthcare
Yes.
industry, there's Certified Psychological Association.
Yeah.
Their acronym is CPA.
Yeah, you can't.
So you guys don't own it.
yeah,
You want to
can't
join that one because that's what we're doing. It's
Just
being psychiatry.
don't assume that your audience knows what
Knows,
you
yeah.
know. In
Yes.
fact, assume they know nothing and then start there and educate them, because
Yeah.
that's one of the best ways to have credibility in your brand.
I do think we have to a little bit sell against brand because the brand CPA is typically associated with tax. And one of the
Yes.
things we had to do
Yes.
Well,
was
that's what
separate
they're saying.
ourselves.
If you do advisory,
We
huh?
had to separate ourselves from that perception that all we do is tax. And
Yes.
we do that, but we want to be seen as broader than that by doing the advisory and full things. So,
Well, I think that's also tying your brand back to outcomes. So
Right.
outcomes
That's
of
right.
if you work with us, this is what the benefit is to your business. And at the end of the day, that's the biggest message that your brand should convey is what's the benefit of working with you as opposed to the 10 other CPA firms that they could choose from.
So
Any advice on how to present yourself in that way?
You know, I think it really does come down to knowing who you want to serve and really digging into what their pain is so that you can present your solution and message that appropriately. Because people know, you know, again, what Becky was just talking
another
about.
resource
There
for
you
that.
go.
Becky's thing over here.
Buyer personas.
Take
Yes.
credit for your work.
And really looking at what their pain points are in healthcare. And
Yeah.
also accepting the fact that they have their own language, and so you need to learn to talk their language as well as teach them about yours and how it all fits together.
Yep. The activity we have in this resource that you'll be getting is using ChatGPT. It's quite an extensive prompt. It's about 3 inches long, high. And what it does is it helps you to define a buyer persona based on information you tell the machine. I'm looking for winery business owners, 10 million in revenue, looking to expand internationally, blah, blah, blah. You fill in the information, and ChatGPT comes back with the buyer persona, not just their name, but also their gender, their age, their likes, their dislikes, the technology they use, all kinds of points of interest
Yeah.
related to them. And then it also gives you the 10 pain points in that industry for that buyer.
Fantastic.
And that then informs how we talk about this in
Yeah.
marketing initiatives,
Yeah,
so that they think
fantastic.
and feel that you really know who they are. And you should know who they are. Don't call the winery with something for manufacturing,
Right.
because it's not going to make sense to them.
And then aligning what comes out of ChatGPT with your own knowledge
Voice.
and experience as well.
And creativity.
Right.
Yep.
I'd like to talk a little bit about how to explain how you're different from your competition. Like, we all like to say, we do these great things. If you look at almost any accounting firm website, it all says they do the same freaking thing, right? And when my firm first went to business, there was 2 people. They broke out from their own firm to start Pain and Fears, which sounds very ominous, right? And they went to market as, we are going to give you this big firm level of service at a cheaper price. When I rebranded, I was like, do you guys really want to be cheap? And by the way, we're not that cheap anymore. That was 30 years ago. And they're like, no, actually, we don't. And so we started to talk about, okay, how are you different from the competition? But how do you get that intellectual capital? How do you really know how you're different from your competition?
Well, first, do you know your competition? I've had clients, when I ask that question, it's one of the first questions I ask them, 3 of your competitors. Sometimes they can give them to me. Most times they can't. But when they do, when they give me their competitors, I go look at the competitors, because I'm like, are they really the competitors? And 9 times out of 10, it's a market that's above them. And I'm like, okay.
Is it what they aspire to
That's
be?
an aspiring
Yeah.
competitor, but who is your current competitor? And I'm going to look at the service lines. I'm going to look at how they talk about themselves. I'm going to look at their social media. I'm going to look at all kinds of things about those competitors, because I want to see how do I take that information, drop it into an analytics tool, and have it throw back data at me, and I can say, here's the strengths, weakness, it's a SWOT analysis, strengths, weakness, opportunity, threats. drop it in there and see where my opportunities are. And can we fill that opportunity? And if so, that's where we're different from our competitors.
When I came into this firm 16 years ago, we had a firm that was already focused on the wine industry and was doing marketing in the form of creating a brochure that sat on somebody's desk. That was how we did marketing.
Sure.
And I started doing things like, let's do some mailers, let's send out some books that we're talking about, let's do some stuff. And I realized that when I mailed it, it said CPA firm, and they went, we don't need tax, and it never got anywhere.
Yeah.
And I said, we've got to show them that we're different. So that's what we had to do. We came up with doing training classes that we do monthly to illustrate. We teach them things about communication skills, about how to understand financials, how to move the needle forward in the direction of your dreams. And we do stuff like that, and they come through the training, and that's how we show them. But we have lots of language on the website as well, but it was all about really proving that we were different.
How do you get them to go to the training? Is it in person?
We have in-person, well, we used to
With
be.
wine
yeah.
tasting?
With these are all winery
That's
people.
the last session of the day, by the way, tomorrow. Just letting you know.
These are all winery people. They don't want to taste wine. They've been doing it all day long. They want to do something else. They want to learn. So we have live things, but it's promoted for us by the Vintners Association.
Okay.
So we do the financial training for this association. So it's 500 wineries who are members who want to learn about finances. And after we did the first class, they realized that we weren't going to read the tax code to them. They decided to come back. And so, but we established by showing them what we talked about that we, that we were different. But it was tough to break through the perception.
Stereotype, yeah.
Well, I think
Yeah, and that's why everything on our site is about that. It's trying to show different things.
But that's the point of differentiation. What you've
Yeah.
done is
Yeah.
you're not doing just putting something on a website and saying, hey, read it and see why we're different. You're
yeah.
showing them
Showing
that.
them, yeah.
Yeah, and that's really what it takes, I think. You have to have some representation. That could be videos, it could be blog posts.
Yep.
And we started writing, I started writing blog posts in, a different voice and having funny things like we did the 12 days of Christmas. We talked about our staff with the 12 days of things, and, doing stuff like that and trying to present a different face.
And
And
I
a
think that's,
personality.
I mean, you brought up the personality that can really differentiate you, and then also just that interactive piece, like engaging people as opposed to just hoping that they find you going out and getting into their world.
And you really have to display information in a way that resonates with all kinds of different audiences.
Yeah.
Some
Now-
people don't do videos, some
Yeah.
people don't do
Right.
text, some people don't do long form, some people like long, all kinds of different ways to mix it up.
I'd like to talk more about that because I think when we start thinking about rebranding, we start with the website, which is sort of the entry to the firm.
Yeah.
But
No, the
like you
colors.
said-
We start with the colors.
please,
You said no, start with the colors.
Sorry, Gail.
but no, but we've got to. There've got to be more ways, like you say, go out and more ways to, as part of your brand to reach potential clients.
I think it's the credibility, getting into their world and their audience, and whether it's starting a YouTube channel that talks to their pain or their questions.
Yeah.
Those are some of the best ways. If you don't like YouTube, write the blog posts, get an article in a trade magazine that's relevant, or all of those ways to put yourself in front of them and show why your expertise is what they need.
That's the beauty of having a niche.
Yes.
I can pick an industry with events and I can start speaking, I can start providing content. But when I'm spread across all kinds of different kinds of clients, it's much more difficult for me to make an impact
Right.
on
Or
all of
fun.
those different clients. I got to speak at 500 different places to cover everybody.
One of my clients has a niche in e-commerce. We don't write, well, we have some blog content, but we know that's not going to be the driver for him.
Yeah.
So what he does, we have one of the teams I work with, their focus is just to get him on podcasts
Yeah.
every month.
Million
he
of
is on a
those.
different big voice podcast in the e-com
yeah.
space.
Yeah.
And that's now driving traffic, and he's getting leads that way.
Yeah,
We're not
podcasts
using
are driving.
traditional methods of blogs and website and lead gen forms and
Yeah,
all that
other
stuff, advertising. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
We're getting him out there on podcasts because that's what the people use. That's how they consume information.
Yeah.
And he's funny, so that helps. It really helps. And the people that he gets involved with are really rock stars.
It's
in the
really
industry.
important if you,
Yeah.
you need that, you need to have the right vehicle for the personality or the
Right.
people that you have to work with. So you
Right.
can't take somebody who wants to be back office doing tax work and say, now you're going to be the
Right.
podcast
Right.
personality.
Right.
And that's one of our struggles is finding somebody who's got the time and the interest in
Right.
being sort of that face or voice.
You can also leverage your clients, too.
Absolutely.
So if they're
Yeah.
in a association or something
Yeah.
like that. The referral, power of the referral,
Or get an invitation to their meetings.
invitation
And
to their
ask
meetings.
them what organizations they're part of,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Maybe you want to
Yeah.
be speaking there. Maybe you want to be writing for their
Yeah.
magazine or something, right? So I think
Yeah.
we need one more break.
Yeah, it's time for the third CPE code for this session.
Gaynor, you want to do the honor since you're...
I
Alright.
do. 1, 2, 3.
All right, be sure to write down this code if you're planning on collecting continuing education credit for this session.
Can I make a segue? We're talking a lot about how to get in front of the clients, and we mentioned the getting in front of the staff. And we did get a few questions like, are you really having trouble finding clients, all in capital letters? That's not a problem. The problem is staff. How can the
it's true.
brand
It is
attract
true.
the staff? What kind of, obviously it's going to be different for a senior tax preparer than it is for another level of staff. Please tell me, how are you doing this?
From a tactical level, I have a firm, and they're 40 staff firm now, and they're we were just talking about it this morning. It's like they want to add 10 more staff members. They're
Okay,
like
that's ambitious.
burning it up. But they find great success in LinkedIn. Like we have
Yeah.
a really strong
Yeah.
brand presence specifically for recruiting on LinkedIn.
So what does that mean? What are they doing? They're obviously not just posting
No,
their website on there.
they use the LinkedIn recruiting package. There's like a LinkedIn Life page, that comes with all kinds of like HR tools and everything. But they do spend a lot of time on culture and promoting that culture. So even we just did a presentation for them where they're going to colleges. They're doing
We're doing a bunch of that.
webinars
Yeah.
with accounting programs. So they're not just placing ads and hoping people are going to find them.
Yep.
They're being very proactive.
How do you demonstrate your culture on LinkedIn or social media?
I can't remember which conference I attended. I've been to about 5 in a row for the last couple of weeks. But somebody said that every firm has one person you can look at in that firm who represents everything that you want the culture to be.
Yep.
Wow.
And who is that firm? And I think if we all thought about that within an individual firm and had that person, you would go, this is the person I want reflecting out there to those
Interesting.
candidates. And and hopefully a recent hire is that person who reflects all the values and the characteristics in those things.
And what do? Ask them to be on video for you?
You have
or-
them. I mean, this is one of the beauties about LinkedIn Live. You don't have to do anything to prep. And if you're not an outspoken kind of a speaker person, you can just interview that person on your team and then let them showcase themselves. So it's not a lot of work for either party. And you can do a very short thing. And then you capture videos of people in your firm talking about what they do.
I love that because someone was like, what if you're a terrible speaker? What can I do? Do I
You
need a
can-
coach? You
you
get
can be
someone
the-
to speak on your behalf.
You can
right?
be the interviewer.
I love it.
You can
That's
ask
awesome.
3 questions, which doesn't require anything really, and then have somebody else talk to you, and then you've got a session.
Yep.
So for us, we're a really family-focused firm. And we use LinkedIn and Facebook for 2 very separate things. LinkedIn is just like, here's our alerts, here's what you need to know, here's
Yeah.
a new law, here's
Yeah.
a new change, whatever. But Facebook, whenever I always ask permission of the parents and all that, but like we have this really cool thing for Halloween where
cool.
the kids trick or treat. So each office, everybody's
neat.
office, we have candy
Yeah.
and we do a costume contest and we get everyone's permission. And it's like, we do a really good job. We say like, Alexandra as an antelope or whatever, and
Yeah.
we do that and
Cool.
people love it. And
Yeah.
it's like you can really get a taste for, we care about
That's-
family here and it's not just about being a buttoned up professional that's giving you advice.
Those are the kind of things,
Yep,
right? I mean,
yep.
where do you put that? Where do you suggest people put that?
We use a lot of, none of my firms are on TikTok. Thank goodness. But anyway,
No.
they could be in a certain industry segment, but none of my firms are on TikTok. But we do a couple of my firms do a lot of video on Instagram.
Instagram.
For
yeah.
example,
Yeah.
there was one of my firms in New Jersey was recently getting ready to do a 5K. So they had this challenge, and they showed each person doing something crazy, like doing push-ups against a wall, running around the office.
See, that's where you get
And
people.
it just encapsulates. I'm getting ready for this event, and we're all in it together, and it was
Yeah.
just fun. And they had Rocky music or something similar to that in the background, and it was just some fun stuff.
I would also say don't forget to have your staff
Yes.
be engaged, because
Yeah.
so many
Yeah.
firms are doing social media, and then it's like,
staff
where are
is
your
not-
staff?
Yeah.
Like, are they not
They have
sharing
sharing
outsourced or
information?
they're not connected to
Right,
it.
they're not.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
And
that's a great place. And another, great engagement strategy is to bring your clients into it. Like,
Yeah.
follow your clients, share
Yeah.
what your clients are doing,
Yeah,
share
yeah.
what your staff is posting.
So I get weird with this, and again, maybe it's because now I've been around lawyers for too long. But like, is there danger in following your clients because then people know who your clients are, and maybe you don't have their permission to say that they're your client?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily, you don't necessarily have to say these are all of our clients, but just, follow
I think
them.
absolutely not.
Like
Like what they're doing, like
yeah.
I follow every winery.
Yeah.
Because I, like alcohol.
And I always
So
say
there.
it too, is if you have a client who's going to leave at the first suggestion of another firm, it's like,
Yeah.
do you want that client? Like, they're not
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
valuing what you do, and we haven't really talked about value in terms of the brand either. Because
Well, that was what was
Yeah.
triggered in your question you got about clients. Who needs clients? We have more than we can handle. Well, then raise your freaking prices.
Yeah, that's true.
Take the ones you want and let go everybody else. And
So,
that's a
sort
great
of,
opportunity.
one of the hardest things about marketing, being a marketing person and not an advisor or CPA, is measuring success, key performance indicators. So, related to this embarking on this new brand, how do you know that you succeeded? I was kind of looking at Becky at first. I figured she was going to take it.
Metrics.
Absolutely metrics, and they vary depending on what your goal is. So, for example, if you're branding, you're merging firms together, you're going to be looking at metrics that demonstrate your brand's consistency over time. People recognize that there's a brand change, they're staying with you, they're talking about you. So you're looking at different KPIs or key performance indicators like social share of voice. How many people are talking about us? Sentiment. How are they talking about us? You're going to be looking at consistency with website numbers, impressions, that kind of stuff. Did they go up? Did they go down? That's going to happen a little bit in the beginning. But if you're starting a firm, you have nothing. You have no metrics to start with. So you have to say, okay, we're going to try to go into, with these service lines, we're going into these industries. Again, you're going to be looking at social share of voice in that industry. You're going to be looking at success metrics with search engine optimization. How many people are searching for us? How many people are sharing content with us on social media? Engagement, whether it's email open rates, social media, engagement, comments, likes, shares, YouTube channel, how many subscribers, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of different things, and we talk about it in each of these books. So
Well, I
there's
think
a lot of
too,
metrics.
I mean, the brand is not.
Yeah, we've got
They all
silver-
want to hold up their books again.
The
Here we go.
billboard.
And these will be listed. You don't have to write them
Right.
all down. 2 weeks from now, we'll have the recordings if you want to revisit this session and share it with
Yep.
your colleagues, and all these books will be listed there.
And the brand is not a silver bullet. I
Right.
mean, and it really is. There's so many pieces and parts to it that when you think about rebranding, you do need to think about what the goal is and what does success look like. Because if you're expecting that we're going to change the colors and we're going to get all of these new clients, that's not going to happen. But if you're going into a new niche and developing content and having a relationship in that niche that's related to your brand, you're going to have more numbers that you can measure against.
And I think you have to deliver on the brand promise.
Of course.
Absolutely.
You've got to keep checking in with your teams. What did we do that made the brand, the statements that we made on our site come to life? Like
Right.
the things we say about why we do what we do and how we do it and all those things. How are we living that day to day, and where have we fallen off the rails?
Yeah.
If we're not
That's
delivering.
really important and
Yeah,
I
it
think
is.
often overlooked, right? Because
Yes,
you're doing,
yeah.
you're trying to deliver on a service. You're not thinking about your personality and things of that nature, right?
And the
When I
promise.
think even delivering on the service, I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
you institute a new service line or the new technology and things don't go as well, that reflects on your brand.
And if all
right?
else fails, just call Taylor Swift. Maybe she can mention your brand on her, whatever.
That's right, there we go.
Next happening.
Who's Taylor Swift's CPA?
You have to date. I think you have to date Taylor Swift to get real brand benefit.
Maybe.
And then break up.
Before we
Yeah.
run that last poll question, The one, how would you identify your brand?
Yeah, actually, that would be great. So the question, the last, just quickly for the audience, we're just curious as to how you currently would identify either the brand you currently have or the one you want to create. I guess that could be two separate questions, but are you considered cutting edge or high tech? Are you considered traditional or conservative? Or are you fun and approachable? We're just interested in knowing that.
Yeah. Let's see how that goes. So we're almost done with this session, but any parting comments before we wrap things up?
I would like to say, find a professional to help you.
Yeah.
We had the firm help us with the firm branding. I did a new a brand launch during COVID, and I had somebody help me. And it was huge to have somebody outside of me talk about what I have. And I think that's a benefit for all of us. So we've got some pros right here.
I would just say really focus on who you're trying to serve and understand what your promise is to them, how you can help move their business forward or help them understand their financial position better. And then once you understand who you're trying to serve and what you can offer them, I think that the rest comes pretty easy.
I think that's a great point. I was going to say, also think about how you can present your brand based on your audience. So those words, the feeling, am I like you? That's what people are looking for. Do you know what I do? Do you understand my industry?
And how can you help me?
How can you help me? Yeah.
Yeah, please take my pain away. Right?
Well, I'm not really surprised. 63% of the audience said that they were traditional conservative, but there's hope because 25.83% said they were fun and approachable.
Yay!
I like it.
We like all kinds.
If
We need
have-
all kinds.
If we have just like 2 seconds at the end, I actually read a stat the other day which floored me, where millennials, there was only 7% of millennials who are actually looking to have a totally virtual relationship with their CPA. People
Fascinating.
still want the relationship.
Wow.
And I think because everybody has a different way of doing relationship in accounting,
Yeah.
everybody has a different personality, everybody can carve out their own
Yep.
brand.
Yep.
It's not the colors, it's not what the website looks like, whether there's 50% white space or not. It's about how they feel and what you can do for them.
Think about what brands you like. Why do you like them? Why do they
All right.
resonate with you?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Great session.
Thank you.
It's a lot of fun.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us, our audience, and we will be back at the top of the hour with one more session today.
Okay, do it one more time. All right.
No, they freak out and they think they have to write it down.